Welcome back to the shop, everybody. This week's video takes place in 2026 week 1. That is December 29th to January 4th. And you might be thinking, how is December in week 1 of January? Well, I'm using ISO 8601. And so the weeks start on Mondays. So our weeks are always a Monday to Sunday. So that's just how the week number is decided. And so this year, week 1 of January week 1 of 2026 just happens to include some of December. So what I am doing here is I am prepping the car for paint. So to prep the car for paint, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the pedal box out. I think I've already pulled out the clutch position sensor. I'm going to take that little panel in the middle of the trans tunnel out. It's held in by those 4 clecos. I'm going to, do my best to remove all the zip ties, all the tape from the bars. I'm going to remove that GoPro mount that's on the left A-pillar cage bar. I'm going to pull all of the seat belt mounts out. So those are those eyelets. You can kind of see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them on screen right now. I'm actually playing with one right there. So pull all that out, pull the park brake out, or the e-brake handle, pull this little metal bracket behind the e-brake handle out. That way I can take the sound deadening out from under it. So we are just going to strip the car down even more just to do all the paint. So you can see in my hand right here, I've got a bag of Scotch Brite pads. So those mount to my die grinder. And my original plan here is to use this die grinder to go over the entirety of the cage. Get as much of the rust off as I can, get down right to good, clean, bare metal. But after I did the first few bars, I quickly realized, I cannot get into all of the areas where all the surface rust is. I just can't reach them. They're too deep. So I'll actually switch gears a little bit, but enjoy me, working on these bars for a little bit here. So yeah, there were just some areas of the cage that were not accessible. They're tight up against the roof support, or they're just tight in corners. So I'm like, you know what? I still have a rust inhibitor. Why don't I, spray it all down with a good dose of the rust inhibitor? And I decide to make a mess of it all. So as you saw, I was pouring. I didn't have my hand on the gun, and it just tipped over with the weight of the blue steel in there. So wasted a good chunk of that, which sucks, but such is life when you're stupid. So I'm just gonna clean this up real quick, and then I will refill the gun with fresh blue steel, and then I will get this sprayed on the inside of the car. And you'll see as I'm spraying it, like right now, there's some of that bar is pretty bright, but you'll see once I hit like rust spots, it actually turns dark pretty quick as it's actively converting the rust. I think it's pretty neat. So I know for next time, if I ever do metal work or cage work or anything like that, as soon as I am done all the welding and stuff, like just get it in primer. Even if it's just, a quick coat of epoxy primer, just do it. It'll save me so much time in the long run. All right, so what I'm doing now is, if you've been following along the channel, I replaced a ton of the metal in the firewall there. And I cut all the seam sealer out of it, and I welded a bunch of new stuff in. So I'm putting a bunch of seam sealer between the cowl and the firewall. That should help keep any water that gets into the cowl area out of the cab. And now that I think about it, I should probably go and throw some water in there before I get too far on the paint. If I throw water in there and it leaks through, I'll be able to see it pretty quick. And if it leaks through, it means I haven't done a good job priming the inside of the cowl. Well, I know I didn't prime the inside of the cowl all that well, but it means I didn't, do a great job welding, and there's still some leaks. So I might do that. And then there are just some other areas around the floor and around the cage that I'm just going to seam seal just to seal it up. So just getting back into taking stuff off the car. There's a bunch of clips on the front of the car that, you know, were for the old harness I don't need. Take those out. I'll take the bracket on the left side, the dash mounts too. And at some point in time, I'm gonna have to spend a ton of time painting all these small parts. So like the dash bracket, the pedal box, I'll need to paint the little metal bracket that's right behind the e-brake that I'm gonna take off. I don't know if I'm gonna get to that this year, or if after this summer I'm just going to strip the interior out again and paint all of those small parts. I don't know. I think it would probably be ideal if I could get all of those small parts painted before I put the car back together. But again, I probably just will not have the time to do so. So it probably will be, I'll put it back in raw as it is, and then, you know, next winter I'll take it all out. Or maybe, you know, middle of the summer after my drag and drive competition. But, you know, that's taking the seats out. Well, I guess it's not that bad. Take the seats out, take the center console out. I don't really need to take the dash out to drop the pedal box down. Yeah, I don't know, but we'll see. So for good paint, the prep is really important. So I'm vacuuming out the car. I want to try and get as much dust and dirt out of here as I can. I don't need the interior to be perfect, especially not like the floors and stuff, because that's all gonna, it's actually all gonna get covered in it's gonna get covered in the sound deadening material, the silver stuff that you see here. So really, a lot of the floor doesn't even matter all that much. But I'm going to do my best to do a good job. So yeah, I'm going to vacuum out the interior. I'm going to blow it out with the air gun, try and get all the dust that's floating around in there out. So this is some wax and degreaser, and so what this does is, you know, if you clean it all up, it just kind of gives your paint a good surface to stick to. If you have a dirty surface, your paint might not stick. So cleaning it and prepping it the best you can just gives you the best chance for, you know, a good paint job. Putting this on after all of the blue steel, that rust converter, it's not great. Like, all the rust converter is actually getting darker, so I don't know if it's got a reaction or what, but I'm just gonna clean it anyways. Just went and put some of that in a spray bottle, because just dumping it out on a rag kind of sucked, and the spray bottle will give me a bigger area and kind of give me better coverage and usage of the product. Alright, so you may not know what this is, you may not, but I got the paint on the bench right here in front. But before I get into any of that, my bench is a mess. I feel claustrophobic, so I am just going to clean up the shop a bit before I get into painting anything. So I've got the bench all ready to go, I've got the paint all ready to go, and then what I did is I looked at the list that I have on the side of my car and I went, shit. I didn't weld in the anti-submarine belt reinforcements, nor did I weld in a USB charger port on the cage. So I'm like, I went back and forth. I was like, okay, do I just paint it and then worry about doing this after? Like, it's just a little bit of grinding and welding. Like, it's not the end of the world if I did it after, but I was like, Ben, don't be a lazy fuck. Just do this now. Who cares if you already degreased it? You can always do that again. It's not a big deal. So I cut out, that's the mount that I'm going to put on the cage. So I'll just weld that to the cage, and then my charger just bolts to it. I made 2 of these, not knowing if I was going to put 2 charging ports on the cage. I ended up only putting 1. I'll have 2 in other locations, but for this will be great, because the charger that I have runs 2 USB-Cs and 2 USB-As. So in reality, off of this one charger, I could have 4 devices. So I could have like GoPro, GoPro 1 and 2. I could have cable run off this, go to the back, go to my GoPro at the front. If I want a GoPro on the side or something like that, I could do that as well. But this is just kind of universal. Whatever I want to plug into there. Technically, my co-pilot could plug their phone into there. There'll be another one for the phone, so that's not really a concern. But it is what it is. I've got it. It's not a terrible thing to have. So we're going to get that welded onto the cage. But before we do that, I'm going to cut out the reinforcement squares for my anti-submarine belts. So this is just like I think it's a 2x2 square. I'm cutting it out of 1/4 inch. I will weld those onto my subframe connectors right over top of where I had the bolt for the anti-submarine belt before, and that will give us a great support. I wasn't too happy because it was just in the subframe connector, which was kind of thin metal, and then I had to space it out with some washers. Now I'll be able to just drill and tap straight through the 1/4 inch and the subframe connector, and it'll be super strong. It'll be way stronger than it was before. So we got those cut out. We'll just clean them up on the bench like we did with the USB charger, and then we will weld these into the car. So there were also some holes in the cage that I drilled for relief for when I'm welding. So since all the bars are cold, I can just throw a little bit of weld in them, fill up those holes. So that's what I'm doing on all the bars right now. Alright, now that we got that stuff welded in, it is back to prepping for paint. So vacuum out the car again, blow out the car again, wax and degreaser again. And knowing what I know now, what I should have done is there is some paint pen that I used to draw lines on the trans tunnel when I made that hole bigger and I cut out that panel. I should have taken some time and just gotten rid of all that paint pen, because it does eventually bleed through the primer a little bit. But I get enough primer on there, it covered and it was okay. But yeah, so just back to degreasing and cleaning. So I'm just kind of doing a trial run with the gun and the cup on it, just to kind of make sure I can get into most of the areas that I need to get into. It's quite tight in some areas, and I think when I go to actually spray the cage, I'll probably use my smaller gun with the smaller cup. I might have to mix up more paint, but I think I'll be able to get into a lot of the areas a lot smoother if I do that. But in any case, I'm going to go ahead and start getting some paint prepped. So I'm just kind of getting everything ready. I've got a bucket there that I'm going to do some cleaning in. And what I really need to do before I start any of this is tape up my garage door. So I do have some plastic wrap, or some, actually I think it's vapor barrier, but a thick vapor barrier on the door. And because I'm running with strong solvents, I don't want that leaking into the house, because my house is attached to the garage. I'm just going to tape up all of the, or just retape that vapor barrier to the door. Alright, time to get this paint ready. But this paint has been sitting for a long time, 1 to 2 years, so it has fully separated. I'll show you that here in a second. So I got this tool because I knew, but yeah, this doesn't even go in all the way. But you could even just see there a little tiny bit as I was just touching it. You know, it's starting to get gray like the primer, because the primer's gray. And of course, I just make an absolute mess. You know, this thing was almost full. The tool is, I don't know if it's great or whatever, but you know, like, it's, yeah, you gotta hold the can as you're doing this, and I wasn't doing that at first because I was worried about getting my gloves dirty because I'm an idiot. I should have known what was gonna happen, like it's spinning like that, like the tool catching the primer and throwing, because it's just like clay. It's like a thick clay is effectively what it is right now. So anyways, I spend a lot of time with the drill in this, and I honestly, in the end, I didn't even get all of it separated. So the next time when I bring this out, I'll probably have to do this again and, you know, try and get some more. But I was like, whatever, I'm good. We're just gonna run with what we got eventually. So as you can see, I've been on this for a while mixing this up. Like my arms were starting to get sore, but it got to a point where I was like, okay, I got enough of it that I can, you know, get some paint going, and hopefully this works out. Alright, so at this point I'm going to put 2 coats of this primer on the cage. I'm doing the cage first, mainly because my thought process is, well, I have to kind of stand on the floor to get in and get some of the bars in the back and stuff. So if I do just the cage first, then, you know, I can stand on the floor while I'm doing that, and then once I'm done the cage I can go back and do the rest of it. And that will allow me to then paint the floor. You know, I just kind of clean it up a little bit with some degreaser, I think. Maybe I don't even do that much. But yeah, so 2 coats on the cage, and then we'll get 2 coats on the rest of the interior of the body. Now, I think I kind of found I had an issue with my gun setup. I had the wrong needle and tip, and then I think the paint may not have been quite thin enough, so it wasn't shooting out the greatest. I mean, I get the coverage, and then I was blown on this with the air gun, and some areas where water dripped out of my mask, the paint flaked off there because I didn't really know. I kind of knew, but I painted on top of water, so that didn't stick and it blew off, but the rest of the paint really stuck and bit, so I'm okay with that. So at this point in time, I jump in and I start to spray this bar, and the paint literally just comes out in a stream. There's no pressure, no nothing. I'm checking, is there a kink, is there a whatever, and as it turns out, I had accidentally turned the pressure regulator knob on the gun down, so there was just no pressure, so it literally just a stream of fluid. Not great, but you know, not the end of the world. We'll carry on, we'll make do. So I'm switching over to a smaller cup on the gun, just because using that big gun, or that huge cup on top of the paint gun, it was really challenging to get in some areas. So I think with this smaller one, it'll be a little bit easier. I will have to mix up the paint more frequently, but I think overall it'll be better in the long term. So when I go to actually paint the cage, I'll probably run it with the small cup again. Well, the cage and the floor. I'm gonna do my plan is to do one sealer coat on all of this before I lay down color. So I'll lay down a sealer coat, I'll resand it, re-wax and degrease, and then I'll put down color. That's the plan for hopefully next weekend. Well, this weekend for me, next weekend for you guys if you're watching. But yeah, so just getting some paint down. This, you know, if you're a painter, you're probably looking at this going, wow, your fan is tiny, like you're getting tiny bits of coverage, you're not getting a lot. Yeah, it wasn't spraying the best, but I just kind of powered through it because I didn't know any better. So as I say, I'm hoping to do a bit of learning and get better, because now I know a little bit more. And of course, I made a massive mess on the floor. Paint wasn't coming out of the gun all that well, so I was like, okay, I'm just going to quickly take the cup off. And yeah, as you can see, that just turned into a huge mess. So I'll quickly clean that up and we'll just get back into painting. Kind of did my best to get a little bit more on this cowl here because it wasn't really all that painted. I mean, I'm probably gonna have to knock most of that out and then actually properly paint that when I do the exterior, just because there's a ton of like sealer residue from the windshield, so I probably want to get as much of that out as I can. It just sucks cleaning that stuff off. Like if you use a grinder, you know, if you use one of the Scotch-Brite pads, it just gums it up so quick and then it's useless, so you got to go through 1,000 of them. You can't just like scrape it off. So I don't really know what the best solution there is. Maybe it's just scuff it up and leave it. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. But in any case, I'm done painting for the day. It is time to clean all of this up. So cleanup just takes a while because I'm not only cleaning the gun, I got to clean the bench, I got to clean a bunch of tools. But yeah, so that's all we're doing is we're just cleaning up. So here we are the next day, and I am just working on sanding down the cage smooth. That primer didn't lay on the smoothest, and that's probably because it was too thick and it just wasn't spraying great, so it wasn't atomizing all that well. So what I'm doing is, just taking, I think I've got some 400 grit in my hand right now, and it clogged up very quickly, so I eventually swapped over to some 320, and the 320 seemed to last quite a bit longer. But yeah, just trying to smooth out these tubes, and don't make any comments about the motions I'm making on all of these tubes. It's fine. We're just painters here. So yeah, just go around the whole car with 400. I haven't sprayed it with wax and degreaser again yet. So right now, as I'm recording this video out in the car, like if I went and touched the cage, it's just my hand gets covered in sanding dust and primer dust. And because the primer didn't lay down all that smoothly or all that well, it didn't build up a whole ton. So as I was sanding down, there's actually some areas where it went right back down to metal. And that's why I kind of want to throw the sealer coat or the sealer pass on this, is it should cover any of those areas. And the sealer coat, I'm going to thin it out a fair bit more, and that should help with getting better coverage, better atomization out of the gun, and just really help me get a better paint job. So after I do the sealer, then it'll be I'll probably do a sand on it if it's not smooth, just to smoothen it out a bit, and then I will lay down paint. folks, with this blowing out all the loose sanding dust from the car, that is all the time that we have for this week. So as always, if you've stuck around this long, I'd like to thank you for viewing, and we'll see you in the next one.